So yeah, this ended up being a much heavier topic than I ever could have anticipated. Like when I came up with this, I was just on a nice little bike ride in my hometown and I thought, ha ha ha, wouldn't it be funny to make a video about my hometown and how I feel about it and how it's actually become the inspiration for my novel. About a year and a half ago, let's say, I got it in my head that I should start writing a novel. Just one of those things, you know, like everyone goes through that phase, right? It's just one of those things that you do. You decide, okay, I've reached a point in my life where it's time to write a novel. I'd reached that point. And for context, I was living in New York, prime novel writing territory. I was working for a nonprofit, not sure if that's prime novel writing territory, but it could be. And I was very dissatisfied with my life, very prime novel writing territory. And so I started writing. I was writing about a girl living in New York, working for a nonprofit, dissatisfied with her life. Guess what? It was based on me. Hello. What happened though was that I didn't have that many thoughts and feelings, as it turns out, about my own life. In fact, I had almost no thoughts and feelings about my own life. I was writing this story and I couldn't figure out where to take it next, what to do with it. All of the characters I introduced into the story, I hated. And also, I didn't like this character of myself. This girl was stuck in this echo chamber of her own dissatisfactions and I could not figure out how to get her out. So I took a step back. Is this the story I want to write? Is there a different story I would rather write? I think I found one. I think I found the topic, and that topic that I kept returning to, no matter what, was friendship. Now, we're not talking just any friendship. We're talking a very specific type of friendship. We're talking that kind of friendship that you have when you're an adolescent and super close and you feel like you mean everything to each other, and then at some point, probably in your early to mid-20s, it just dissolves and you don't know why. And I thought about that kind of friendship. I thought about my own experience of having that kind of friendship, and I thought, well, what if? What if someone had a chance to do that friendship over as a person in their 20s? Like, what would that look like? If someone returns, say, to their hometown and gets to live that friendship over again, what would that look like? Now, I had this chapter written about the girl in the big city and all I had to do was repurpose it, but what I did was I made it a story where this was her last day in the big city and she was about to move home to her small town where she would reconnect with her friend, and that's the basis for the story. And now I'm back. I'm here. I'm taking the inspiration. I'm not actually here because I plan to take the inspiration. I'm here because I wanted to like hang out with my parents for a while, but like also it's convenient that I decided to write a story set in my hometown at the same time that I'm like taking several months being in my hometown, like seeing family and stuff. Like it works because I get a real insight into the way of things. But let me just say, like, I'm here. And also, I want to kind of set the scene for you. We're talking small town. We're talking not Gilmore Girls, quaint, quirky, stars hollow. We're talking more the Midwest version of that. Now, what I will say is that the term Midwest kind of always bothers me a little bit. I think it's kind of annoying. I think it's not very descriptive. I think that it's also a little derogatory in the way it's used, which I am going to get to. But basically, like, this town is in Michigan, which is more, I would say, like Great Lakes region if I were to say, but who am I to say? And people understand it when you say Midwest, so I guess I'm gonna say Midwest, aren't I? Because I don't think I have any choice, and Midwest does conjure that certain type of depressing energy, I suppose, in the common consciousness, so I think we're gonna have to say that, even though I'm not thrilled with it. Now, the surroundings are rural, and the town itself, though, I would say leans more post-industrial. Let's say the houses were built for people who worked in the auto factories that have since long ago moved out, and nothing's much come in to replace them. Let's also say that at some point in my life, I have hated this place. I've hated it immensely. Let me also say, though, that wasn't always the case. Like, I didn't have a bad time growing up here, though I could understand how someone would have a bad time growing up here if you weren't like cis white straight. neurotypical probably, or very high masking neurodivergent. Like, I could see how it'd be miserable for someone who doesn't fit kind of the standard of what capitalism wants us to be. However, I had friends, I had a good education in the public school system. I had one of those childhoods that was very outdoors, very imaginative, like it was all good. It was only when I was about 14 and I was indoctrinated into the cultural conditioning of the elite classes that things started to change for me. Where previously I'd had a neutral relationship with my hometown, now it was everything that I didn't want to be. I hated how those from more sophisticated places treated it with this kind of scorn and condescension, that when I would say it was from there, they'd assume that I was somehow religious, uneducated, uncultivated, uncultured, and ultimately like just kind of stupid because of where I'm from. And like, that didn't rub me the right way, I have to say. Like, I didn't really appreciate that, and also I couldn't understand why anyone was treating me this way, so that also rubbed me the wrong way. And when I moved away, when I moved first to London, then I moved to New York, and I got that inevitable question that everyone's always asked if they're from somewhere remotely different, where are you from? I would always be like, yeah, I'm from Michigan. Oh yeah, and it's terrible. It's terrible, because I had to signal that. I feel like I had to signal that understanding that, yes, I understand that I'm not from a good place, that I'm not from somewhere you want to be from. Like, yeah, I get it. I get it. It was terrible, let me say, but it wasn't Michigan that was terrible. It was like these people I was talking to who like largely were terrible, because then they'd be like, oh yeah, it must be. Wow, poor you. How could you even cope with being from such a place? Now, I've seen two good pieces of media, I suppose, on this topic recently. The first is from the Substack, Midwesthetics. It's a good Substack, linked it below. But anyway, this Substack has a very nice quote that I'm going to read for you now. It's become symbolic of American dream chasing mediocrity, or worse, unremarkable ubiquity. It's a preface to achievement, never the conclusion. You leave the Midwest to become. And the second was a TikTok from Madeline Pendleton. I'll put it here.
I think probably what's more accurate about Michigan is that it's, yeah, just like a lot of working class people who have just been really on the bad luck side of things. The racism thing, obviously, not great. Automotive manufacturing, leaving, right? The country, and especially areas like Detroit, major issue for them there. Never maybe fully bounced back industrially. And I think like culturally, the good arts elements of that, I think that is like born from maybe these types of issues.
What I'm saying is I no longer flat out hate where I'm from. I've learned the context. I've learned that every elite class needs its comparator group to justify its disproportionate access to resources and prestige. And I feel like I need to back that up with someone more qualified than me. So here's political philosopher Michael Sandel on the topic.
Here's the basic argument of mainstream political opinion, especially among Democrats, that dominated in the decades leading up to Mr. Trump and the populist revolt he came to represent. A global economy that outsources jobs to low-wage countries has somehow come upon us and is here to stay. The central political question is not how to change it, but how to adapt to it, to alleviate its devastating effects on wages and job prospects of workers outside the charmed circle of elite professionals. The answer: improve the educational credentials of workers so that they, too, can compete and win in the global economy. Thus, the way to contend with inequality is to encourage upward mobility through higher education. The rhetoric of rising through educational achievement has echoed across the political spectrum, from Bill Clinton to George W. Bush to Barack Obama to Hillary Clinton, but the politicians espousing it have missed the insult implicit in the meritocratic society that they are offering. If you did not go to college, and if you are not flourishing in the new economy, your failure must be your own fault.
And yeah, I went to college and then some. In this time when the assumption was that if you get educated in the institutions of the ruling elite, you will have everything you need to survive in this system. To be part of this elite, I learned that I needed to hate where I'm from. I needed to scorn it at every turn. And that, for a while, was exactly what I did. So yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this place. It shaped me. and then I rejected it in favor of urban sophistication, and then urban sophistication kind of rejected me. I didn't end up with that fancy job I had dreamed of that brought just enough praise and public recognition to keep me satisfied. No, that didn't happen. My brush with the sophisticated, cultured world of the coasts did not lead me where I wanted to be, and so I came back to my hometown, both figuratively and literally, to figure out partially what it meant to me, but also I think that the pretension runs deep, that the urban pretension doesn't just go away because I've decided to reject it. No, I decided that if I want to understand this place, I have to write about it. And also, I wanted to say, like, I don't want to idealize things here. I don't think it's like some idyllic perfect place. And I don't think now that, oh, just because like I've seen that, well, this world that I did idealize isn't that good, that the alternative is suddenly the ideal. It's not. As I've been here for the past months, I have become deeply enmeshed in the small town news and also conspiracies. And it's made its way into the setting for this story that I'm trying to tell. The setting becomes a microcosm of battlegrounds all over the world, the tensions between rich and poor, between property and community. I've been reading local news. I've been tracing property ownership records. I've been watching the sale of historic buildings to unknown buyers. I know that there are deep threads of bigotry too running through the town, and as I walk around I do wonder, which of you are raging racists and which of you would really like to deprive me of my bodily autonomy? Because like, for all that there are some good things here, and there is a lack of pretension generally that I do appreciate after my time on the coasts and in London, I also know that it's not perfect. And so like a story continues to take shape in my mind, and it's not really the story of friendship I conceived of originally, though there's a subplot there, but it's also a story of place, and it's a story about relationship to place, and it's a story that I'm kind of writing as fiction, but it's also playing out in my real life, and I'm finding that to be a very interesting and revealing process, but also kind of a strange and emotional one that is like causing this whole breakdown over like how I feel about my hometown and what do I think about it and what does it all mean. I could never write about it before, maybe because I was too directly connected to it, too deeply resentful of it and the way people treated me in these sophisticated places because I came from it. But now that I've been away for a long time and I've been able to maybe outrun that association to an extent, I can see it through a more sympathetic eye perhaps, or maybe a more balanced eye at a minimum, an eye that's seen through the lies of urban coastal sophistication, to find out that people are not better in any of those other places. People are people no matter where. People have their problems and they have their good points and that's it. That access to museums and galleries and art exhibits and performances doesn't in itself bring joy. And I get that maybe by writing this I am participating in the very active kind of urban coastal elite condescension that I criticize so much, that maybe I am just one of those horrible urbanites who's co-opting stories of my place of origin for my own personal gain, but then also I'm like, I'm not making any money off of this writing project. Like, I'm not making any money off of anything I'm doing practically right now. Like, I am just like doing it for the sake of doing it in the hopes that someone likes it. And also, I feel like if I ever did make money, like I would try to funnel some of it back into the community. I don't know, like it's fraught. But I think ultimately what I'm doing is trying to write for my own understanding or resolution to some of the conflicts that have so defined my adulthood so far. I think maybe that's really what I'm doing. And maybe if it ever goes out into the world, I would hope that maybe people might resonate with it. Someone from a similar background might feel that they're seen through it, or they might find that it's interesting, or it might change some of their assumptions about how they view places like this. And ultimately, kind of as a closing thought, I just wonder if anywhere else I go in my life will have the same resonance that my hometown ultimately has proven to have for me. If anywhere will tap into that deep, deep well of emotion and resentful commitment to and feeling about if this is it though. And I think like also as I think about all of this, and I think about, well, what if this is what I have to write about forever? Or what if this is where I have to like set everything I ever write in the future? I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be, but like I still do get that twinge of disappointment that it's not a more cool, desirable, sophisticated place, even though I've been through this whole process of trying to like question the assumptions that I developed as I was a teenager, basically. And as I had like questioned the supremacy of this like urban elite life, like even so, like I still do feel a little bit of disappointment that maybe this is who I am, and I need to learn to really be proud of myself for who I am, or proud of my origins, even if it's not that cool and that stylish. When I think about home still, and when I think about home when I'm not here, I still do feel this gaping, ragged longing, this longing for the outdoor spaces, this longing for the old empty factories, this longing for the downtown that's so quiet sometimes it feels like the world has ended. I still feel this longing for it when I'm away, and I wonder if that's just the curse of everyone who's gone and left their home for the big city and maybe never will come back. I wonder if everyone who's gone off chasing some assurance of their own superiority in the world feels this too. And I do still wonder if one day I should just come back. One day I should just abandon fully that fancy, urban, superior life and just live here and live in the place where I grew up, in the place that shaped every perception that I have, or all of the earliest perceptions that I have, and just be a part of it. Really be a part of the community, really see what it all means, really find out the secrets that this town holds. And I don't know if I will, and I don't know if I'll try it someday, and I don't know if I'll always keep a foothold in what I still deep down maybe do see as the superior place, which I guess would be like London or New York or something. But you know, I just think that it's all an interesting thing to think about, and I think that it's interesting drawing inspiration from that which we've rejected. And I think ultimately the only thing I can say now is to be continued.